Hey guys, welcome back to We Watch the Movie. I am Mike, and this is 7 ways that test screenings, the dreaded test screenings, changed the Halloween franchise for forever, some ways for the better. Starting with Halloween 2, 1981. Everybody knows John Carpenter wrote this movie after a 6-pack of beer in a matter of just a few hours and handed it off to Rick Rosenthal. He really didn't want to direct it, didn't want to make this a franchise or any of that shit. Well, when they watched it and they test screened what Rick Rosenthal did, Carpenter and the audience, the test screening audiences, agreed there wasn't enough gore in the film. Specifically, the test screening audience was upset at the lack of teens that were killed in the movie, which is a weird thing to want for a movie. I would like to see myself die in this film, please, but that was something they did back then. Almost all these movies had teens dying, and at this point, Halloween 2 did not. So, John Carpenter filmed himself several days of just gnarly, nasty killing stuff, including Michael Myers literally drowning someone as their face melts in a hot tub, and as well added the death of a teenage girl to appease the bloodthirsty test screening audience. Rosenthal hated this, by the way, because on some of these kills, Michael went out of his way to kill them, and he felt like that took away from the lore that Michael Myers only kills people who get in his way. They never test screened Halloween 3, and they really should have, because then someone could have told them, hey, there's no fucking Michael Myers in this thing. So fast forward to Halloween 4, and this is a movie that they had to get right at this point in the franchise after everything that happened with Halloween 3. I love it. I know you love it. It's a weird little movie. Dr. Chalice likes to get drunk and bang 20-year-olds. Who doesn't love that movie? I understand. But at that point, we really needed a Michael Myers hit. So when they made this film, they really wanted to follow a COD's rule of let's tamper down the gore and the violence and the blood and make ours a classier little bit of a slasher franchise. However, when they watched the finished product of the film, they realized that there wasn't enough gore in it. There wasn't enough deaths. A lot of things happened off screen, and they were really kind of falling behind with some of the tropes in the franchise at this point. So they commenced one day of what they called blood filming, and they let special effects guru John Carl Buechler have his way with a couple of scenes, and specifically this changed the movie to add scenes like when Earl gets his neck ripped out in the car. It's a lot more gobbledygook. Early in the movie, one of the best kills in the franchise, honestly, when they're transporting Michael in the paramedics van and he puts his thumb through someone's fucking forehead. And they actually filmed something during this that didn't make the final film, and that's when bandage-faced Michael Myers kills the mechanic. It's still in the movie, but the camera cuts away. In this version of it, we actually get to see Michael Myers put that goddamn crowbar into that dude's throat hole. Like this.
God damn you.
Next up, this movie, not only was it changed by test screenings, but we ended up with 2 entirely different versions of the fucking thing because of test screenings that happened with Halloween 6. Now, this was kind of a setup. The Weinsteins were dirty fuckers, and we all know that by now, but they were also that way in the way that they handled their business with movies. They didn't like what was going on with the film. They didn't like what Joe Chappelle and Daniel Farrens had crafted and what the Accods had done. They wanted to change this movie after they saw it. So they held a test screening in New Jersey, and allegedly it was full of nothing but 13-year-old boys who they probably knew were going to agree with them on all of these topics. That's not to say the original producer's cut of the film was perfect, but they got the answers that they wanted, and that's that all these kids hated it. They hated the ending. They hated the cult storyline. They hated all of it, every bit of it. So the Weinsteins got their opportunity to take the movie completely away from the Accods and really just change everything they want about it, changing it so much that, again, we ended up with the substance version of 2 different kinds of movies. And in this version, they changed out Michael Myers, they added a bunch of death scenes, they added a cult murder scene, they changed the ending of the film to the Paul Rudd Pipe Attack, which is a great name for a band name, I always say. And something that wasn't shown here, because they ran out of time, that was written into the new ending of this movie, was they were supposed to hoist Michael up on chains at the end to kind of subdue him, but instead they ran out of time, didn't want to pay overtime, and just flopped the mask on the ground, said fuck it, let's pan down to it with sounds of people screaming. There's your ending. And that's kind of how Dimension did things. But because of this test screening, they literally changed so much about it. Some for the better, some for the worse, for sure. Neither copy of the film is perfect. Both are entertaining, in my opinion, in a weird, fucked up kind of way. They actually took the writer from Hellraiser Bloodlines, another franchise fucked by Dimension, and they took Rand Ravitch, which is a great wrestler name, who wrote Halloween Bloodline and had him rewrite the end of the movie because they didn't like what their writer rewrote for them, and Daniel Farrens. Daniel Farrens did save us, however, because the director Joe Chappelle was in there going fucking crazy with a paintbrush too, and at one point wanted Kara to wield a machine gun and be mowing down cult members. Like, what the fuck are we even doing here? Daniel Farrens fought it so hard that they acquiesced his request. I probably said that wrong. However, they told him, that's it though. You keep piping up and you're going to be banned from the set, asshole. Fast forward to everyone's favorite Halloween film, Halloween Resurrection. This one was changed a lot by test screenings, and not for the better. Maybe the opening, I don't know. In the original opening of the film, Laurie Strode dies very quickly, and they didn't like that. They said this is a major player in these movies, and we need to take our time. Hello, Thor. And we need to show this a little bit more. So they extended the opening scene. They probably added that weird semi-incestual moment between her and Michael. They also added some clarity based on test screening reactions on what happened at the end of H2O, because that was confusing. It's like, didn't you just cut this guy's fucking head off? But they added some of the dialogue explaining that Michael Myers somehow crushed the voice box of a paramedic, put his mask on him, and kind of set him up to take the fall. On to the bad things that the test screening did, and Rick Rosenthal, who also directed Halloween 2, which we previously spoke of, swears that this is true, and I will never, ever, ever believe you, but allegedly, a 2001 test screening in New Jersey, the crowd all said the problem with the movie, swear to Christ, was that there wasn't enough Busta Rhymes in it. They wanted more Freddy, they wanted more Busta, and that was actually their fucking qualms with the film. So, Rick Rosenthal literally says that they knew he was great in the film, but the test screenings had them thinking he was the next big movie star. I shit you not. This is how stupid Hollywood can be. So they actually commenced 4 days of reshoots just to give us more of that Freddy fuckaroo. And they did. They let him write his own lines. They let him ad-lib his stuff. They added him to the ending where he wasn't before. This is where we got Freddy roundhouse kicking, kung fuing Michael Myers. This is where we got chicken fried motherfucker Freddy quotes towards Michael Myers. All of it due to this test screening. It's fucking silly. And one more tiny thing test screening audience had a hand in changing was the absolute ending of the film. What they landed on, of course, which I don't hate, and I think they could always go back and make Halloween 9 off of this moment and just get rid of everybody that came before. Freddy, all of them, and just have it start in the morgue where his eyes just open and you could tell a new story with new characters. I still think that's a possibility on the table. That's what they went with. That was one ending, his eyes opening in the morgue. Another ending was when a group of CSI folks go into Michael Myers' house, and then almost Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003 style, when one of them shines a light into the basement area, Michael Myers pops out and grabs her and the movie ends, which kind of would have been pretty cool in my opinion. And then finally there was one ending where as Freddy's talking shit to Michael Myers on the gurney, Michael Myers pops up, starts choking him, and then Sarah, finally being the heroine instead of Busta, grabs an axe and plants it promptly into Michael's face. Now, one cool idea that Rick Rosenthal actually did have was he wanted to clue it up, which means he wanted to do what they did with Tim Curry's Clue and have different theaters have different endings for the film so that people would see it multiple times, which would have been a pretty rad idea for a better movie, but the studio nixed that.
Feel this.
And now we go to Rob Zombie's Elegant Incarnate Halloween 2007. This is pretty simple. Test screenings, focus groups, all of it took in what we now know is the director's cut of Rob Zombie's film and said that shit's gross. They thankfully said, you know what we don't need in a Halloween movie? A 15-minute goddamn rape scene that adds nothing to the plot, that just serves for you to get your sick fucking rocks off. Literally had no point in the film, and unfortunately, the Akkads and the Halloween franchise did release this as a director's cut, which has now become the most prominently known Halloween 2007 film. It's a lot easier to find a director's cut than it is to find the theatrical release. But I still think it's important that the Akkads and everyone held true to the meaning of Halloween and said, you know what, we're not going to put Halloween on this box of just extra gross shit for no good goddamn reason. And you want me to take a shit in a box and market guaranteed? I will. I've got spare time. But for now, let's protect the sanctity of this franchise and not have needless, pointless rape scenes in the film. So rare focus group win there, but yeah. So moving on to the complete and total indecision that plagued David Gordon Green's 3 Halloween films. Starting with Halloween 2018, there was minor changes throughout the film based on test screenings. Little scenes were added, such as Laurie giving Allison some money for vacation, or them just kind of rewriting sort of the backstory, showing extra scenes from the backstory of the women. But mainly it was the ending of this, one that we're still hoping we get at some point on a special edition Blu-ray or 4K or whatever. But up to this point, we haven't. But there was test screenings that had a completely different ending that audiences really did not enjoy. And that's because it left too much ambiguity. It didn't really finalize things enough. And it really changed the course of Halloween Kills more than anything. Because in the original ending, Michael and Laurie are out on the front lawn fighting. She has shot him through the ceiling. They end up tumbling out to the front lawn. They're throwing down in a knife fight. Tommy Lee Jones and Steven Seagal Under Siege style. And there's some throwbacks to the original film. She cuts Michael in the arm, the same place she had been cut. Eventually, he plunges a knife into her chest. And then Karen, at this point, impales him by shooting him from the porch with a crossbow. So he kind of slops off into the woods before, like a grandpa trying to get through the mall, has to take a break. And he sits next to the mannequins, breathing heavily. And it's left to assume that he might die here, he might not. And audiences did not like that ambiguity, especially since the second movie hadn't really officially been announced at that point. Now, what they went back and filmed really changed Halloween Kills because obviously they light him on fire. It's not a trap, baby. And they burned his ass up in there, which changed and gave us that awesome opening to Halloween Kills that we know of. And there's no official... We heard a lot about test screenings and Halloween Kills, but there was a lot of horse shit that was coming out during this trilogy that wasn't true. So there's nothing official about Halloween Kills as far as that goes. However, Halloween Ends, there is something official about the test screenings and how they change things. And that comes from David Gordon Green himself, where he told Entertainment Weekly himself that they originally were going to make Ends be far more intimate with the ending. What I assume he means by that is the bloodletting that takes place on the table between Allison, Laurie, and Michael. However, he says that it just didn't feel like it was grandiose enough. It wasn't big enough. So they added that silly ass scene where everybody's taking Michael Myers to the dump like he's a fucking Christmas tree on top of their car and ends up turning him to the Hamburglar. And so he says we came up with this ending pretty much a couple months right before the movie came out and after they had screened it a few times. There is, from my understanding, complete bullshit notion out there that at one point there was an ending featuring Michael and Laurie fighting on a radio tower, and the radio tower goes down and there's someone gets impaled, and that's how it ends. But to all my knowledge, that's a complete horseshit fabricated story made by people who were just trying anything they could to get views off of the Halloween rush at the time. There's nothing official that ever came out of that. It sounds like horse cocky poo to me. But he did mention a different ending that is a fact that we did know they were going to do, and that involves something far more evil in the ending that I feel may have been altered by the test screenings as well. And that's an ending where Allison shows back up to Laurie's house at the end of the movie, and Laurie ends up throwing a glass and attacking Allison, ends up choking her before getting control of herself and telling Allison to stay away from her, locking the door behind her. And the movie ends. Michael's evil has basically been passed on to Laurie, and she'll never escape it. Look, I'm so glad they didn't go with this ending. A, because just kind of like Halloween 4 and how that ended, like transferring Michael to someone else, how they kind of did with Corey, it's always just silly and dumb. And also, oh God, I'm done with Laurie already. Can we please, I don't want this hint. She's like, I might be the next Myers in the next movie. And I'm like, you better fucking not be. This isn't Freaky Friday, Laurie. Please, no. God, no. No more Laurie. We've done it to death, Jim. But that's just my opinion. What do you guys think about the endings? Which one would have been better? Personally, I'm glad that they went with what they went with rather than that whole situation. And that, my friend, is all the ways that test screenings have majorly affected the Halloween franchise over the years. Is there anything that you've heard of that maybe I missed? How do you feel about these changes? I know you're really pumped about the Freddy one. What would we have done if we didn't have so much goddamn Busta Rhymes in Halloween Resurrection? What would become of us, Edna? I don't know. Hey, I love your fucking faces. If you like videos like this, please click subscribe, because YouTube tells me a lot of you aren't subscribed. So you gotta click the subscribe button. I'm gonna bang, bang, bang the drum. I love your all's fucking faces. Hope you have an amazing day, and we shall talk soon.
What are you gonna do on October 31st?
What are you gonna do on October 31st?
Here comes that white-faced fucker, an asshole like no other. He's a big old piece of shit. Wants to stab your sister's tits cause he's a white-faced fucker. Loomis can't recover, Dr. Challenge drunk again, sleeping with your sister's friends.
Do you want to know about the darkness?
I said, goddamn.
Goddamn you, faggot!
I said, goddamn.
A lot of people don't know the darkness that goes inside their hearts.
I said, goddamn.